on the outside. Very, very, very nicely done. Very easy to do. Very stylistic. Anybody would be proud to have something like that, either inside or outside their house. I mean, that's exterior stuff. This will hold up to the elements longer than you're going to be alive. It's wonderful, wonderful. Okay, they're starting to put the plaster, the rough plaster, in on the wall in the lower right picture. This is the line plaster that's got the line built in, and the sand from, the glass, and the a little bit of water, and the Tim White. There he is again, the guy in the white shirt, blue cap. He worked for American Clay for many, many years. Well, not many, many. He's been in clay for a long, long, long time. He understands it chemically. He understands it physically. He just knows the stuff. He's split off and has his own company now called Roman Stucco. You might want to take a look at his site. There's a lot of good information on there. It's romanstucco.com. And there's 5 different lime plaster mixes that he has available when he's selling to the people that he doesn't want to sell to anybody. This is the kind of guy who wants to make sure that his products are used right. So in order to use it, you have to go through a workshop. And that's where most of the people that were at this workshop are doing, so they can get their licensure to work with this particular brand of lime plaster. I don't blame him. He doesn't want to sell a lot of product and people go, oh gee, it's not working right, just because somebody didn't understand the nuances and ins and outs and how to do it, how to cure it, all those sort of things.
Don't they use that a lot in Austin? Isn't it real popular?
They're starting to. It's a lot more popular than here. But yeah, they're starting to get it. That's one thing that Tim likes to do. He likes to go on the road and do these workshops. And so he told me that when somebody here is ready to do something like this, he'd be more than happy to make the arrangements and we'll set something up. So if I get wind of it, or if I know of a project that we're going to be using either earth construction or the papercrete, we'll see if we can get something worked up. So stay tuned. If you're interested, hopefully between now and a year from now, we can have something like that here, where we can have a workshop that will lead to a certification where you'll say, yeah, you know how to do it. It's not rocket science. I was there for most of the workshop, and it's just common sense stuff. That there's a book, there's all sorts of stuff that goes along with this, and a lot of good hands-on, when to press, when not to press, that sort of thing. But that's what this is all about. This is the rough coat on the top 3 pictures with their number 4 stucco. The number 4 stucco dries very fast and very rough, and you put the little scratches. He's got a very interesting homemade thing that scratches the coat so that you'd actually put the next layer on at Barnfield.
When you say number 4, you mean the 4th layer, or?
Oh, that's just his mix. It's called number 4 mix. The number 1 mix is the one that is the finished material, and it takes the longest time to cure. So we wanted to use the stuccos for this class that actually set up fairly quickly, so we can kind of go from one to the next without taking an entire week to do the class. And so
he's only using 2 coats, right?
He was using 2 coats, that's right. And then he was finishing it up with the lime wash. The gentleman in the lower right is using a trowel that was used during the second coat, and somewhat of a finished coat. It's a trowel that's made of mesquite wood. The mesquite wood helps bring the water to the surface without a whole lot of damage to the crystalline structures that the plasters are trying to do when they're turning themselves back into the calcium carbonate back in the limestone.
Can you use regular redwood float?
He said mesquite. I didn't see any redwood floats out there, but that was mesquite.
Because that's the typical one you use in concrete.
Yeah. But
Okay.
he loves the mesquite. Well, even too, remember he's from New Mexico. And so he's going to be able to source the mesquite floats better than he would with redwood.
Yeah, all you do is take a redwood and just cut it in the shape of that and you'll be fine.
I would imagine their capabilities are similar. As far as
I would think mesquite would be a little bit harder.
yeah, it's definitely harder than redwood.
Yeah.
Mesquite's one of the hardest woods that are out there.
It would leave pretty much the same texture, right?
Here's the finishing coats, and now he's got this sort of a sponge trowel there where he's actually putting the lime wash on it. and it's a very wet lime wash. You could barely tell on the bottom middle picture where the lime wash is lighter color on the right and the second coat of stucco is on the left. It's pretty much the sealant coat of the material. And there on the lower right is the final part of the class when we got a sample block and we made a real quick a 2-layer base stucco for it. And then we put the final coating on the top, and that was the lime plaster. That was the purest lime plaster, and heavily polished with. Started out with a steel trowel, and then went to an acrylic type of trowel to give that really shiny finish. And that was the sample that went around. Yeah, here it is. And this particular sample, that finish that's on the top, is what they call tadlekt, and that's in English it's spelled T-A-D-L-E-K-T, and it's a Moroccan word. This particular finish comes from the stuccos and finishes that you'll see in Moroccan palaces that go way, way back. This is a finish that is water resistant. I could spray some water on this, it'll beat up. And so this is not necessarily, this was not recommended for countertop material, but it definitely would be great for a backsplash, and it's perfect for the shower. And this was in the Moroccan baths were using this kind of highly polished, almost, and this is not even polished as good as it can be. I was not the head of the class by any means. You know, some of these guys were really, really good. And they got it down to like a mirror-like shine. It was like a patent leather. Very, 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 very sexy material. And this is a godsend. This is something that you see, you're going to show this in a house and you're just going to knock everybody out. It's just going to be phenomenal. And it's all natural material. And so
this is all that Tim White.
Yeah, this is from that Tim White's class. This is the slide kind of, it made it look like this is a really, really long building, the way it's kind of cropped. That's about the length of the entire building. That's Ray Bone's offices in Mason, Texas, made with a paper-free block. And oh, here's the tornado test. There's the little panel that's on the upper right. It was a panel that they made for this test. That's done at Texas Tech. This has to be the most fun postgraduate job there is, where they test wall sections and materials and everything that you can imagine with this tornado test. And the tornado test, they take this modified cannon, and the cannon, they load it up with 2x4s. They just kind of load this thing up, and they get behind the screen, you know, they got their goggles and everything on, they hit the button, and the thing shoots a 2x4 into a wall of material at 200 miles an hour.
Cool.
Yeah, fun. This is really a guy thing. You know, this is, you know, this
Mythbusters.
People, yeah, people, you know, just follow themselves up to anything to get in this kind of section. But this gives you an idea of how they've done the test. And right there where I've got my left thumb in, that my left thumb's just touching the bottom, that's as far as that 2x4 went in at 200 miles an hour in that wall section. So this will hold up to a lot of tornado debris. So it passed the tornado test with flying colors. Some materials, as you can imagine, are so resilient the 2x4 shattered. They didn't shatter, but they did absorb the
Did they ever try that with the pressed earth blocks? I'm sure they did.
If they did, I don't know how to test it out. I wouldn't be so. Look, the thing is, can you imagine on an off day they're probably going, gee, let's shoot something. You know, so even if they weren't hired to do a compressed earth block, I can imagine them putting up a wall and going for it. I'm sure. I just don't know.
It goes through
So
masonry block. I mean, concrete blocks will go right through it.